So, guys, the expected has happened. The Epstein files came out, as many people, including to an extent myself, but not entirely myself, predicted. The government horrendously mishandled it and is now simultaneously making Trump look worse by revealing bad stuff about his association with Epstein, and also making Trump look bad by doing a comically bad job of covering it up. The attempts to cover it up, or the extent to which they have attempted to cover it up, is pretty, well, extensive. I mean, the most obvious stuff is the fact that they have censored, or I should say redacted, an enormous amount of shit across the entirety of the files. But by far, the funniest and most inexplicable is the wrong word, unjustifiable, the worst looking, the most optically damaging thing is that the government, and this is real, forgot to scrub one of the photos with Trump in it. This was one of the unredacted photos, an open desk drawer containing seemingly numerous photos of Donald Trump with, women. And this was the 468th page of the released files. They forgot to censor this, to redact any of it. And the government just straight up removed it. The Justice Department scrubbed it. They released it. Here are the files in sequence, 467 and then 469. They got rid of 468. Literally illegal? Yes, literally illegal. Just flagrant, blatant violation of the law requiring them to release all this information. They just panicked and took it out. It looks even worse than if they had just left it in there. There's already like a million photos of Trump with Epstein. That's not new. So I have no idea why they would look back on this and go, oh shit, let's really obviously break the law and take this picture down from a numerical sequence, an unbroken, continuous sequence on a document dump that everyone is paying attention to right now. Why? It does, if nothing else, make it clear that one of the orders that the DOJ was explicitly given was to cover up anything involving Trump. Like, for a fact. We know that for a fact. There is no other explanation for this. They were like, we need a brave patriot within the DOJ to leak the instructions they were given. I really didn't, I don't know why I keep saying this, like I didn't think they would be this incompetent in their mismanagement. I have no idea why they would go ahead and try to remove this file after everyone already knew. It's not the only file they've removed. At least 16 files have disappeared. So here's where we're at, okay? The government is illegally redacting information. Remember that every single redaction they make in these files, Congress has the ability to question and demand an explanation for it. They're illegally redacting huge swaths of these files. They have only released a small portion of the total number of files, presumably because they're not done redacting the rest of them. In addition, they're hastily covering this up after releasing it, illegally deleting files from the webpage. They've also broken the law by not making this information archived or indexable. Like, you can't search through it. The search function doesn't work. So it's, mishandled on every possible level. They had a month to prepare. Please remember, as they continue to release hundreds of thousands of pages, that Kash Patel said under oath months ago that there were no Epstein files. Multiple members of the Trump administration, after it became clear Trump didn't want to entertain this conspiracy anymore, went on the record and said there are no Epstein files at all. So just, obviously, it's so bad. I saw the Hodge twins posting about this. Remember those guys? I don't even know how you grift in favor of this. No explanation from the government, no notice to the public. The missing files, which were available Friday and no longer accessible by Saturday, include images of paintings depicting nude women, one showing a series of photographs along credenza into drawers. In that image inside a drawer, among other photos, was a photo of Trump alongside Epstein, Melania Trump, and Ghislaine Maxwell. The Justice Department did not say why the files were removed or whether their disappearance was intentional. A spokesperson for the department did not immediately respond to a request for comment. POV, you're that spokesman. Slams phone receiver back down on the desk. The Hodge twins recently reached out to the whites only cult leader guy and asked if they can come interview him, and he was like, no, sorry, ha ha ha. That's pretty funny. That's pretty good. That's a good bit. Anyone defending Trump is explicitly pro-pedo. This is why I told you guys that even if they just redact all the information in the files, it's not going to help the Trump administration at all, okay? Now there's a ton of attention being drawn to how badly of a job they've done keeping this together, It looks terrible. the cover up is always worse than the crime. Dude, you have no idea. It's so much worse than this. This is more of a side thing, but like the Department of Justice has actually been slipping photos into the release that are not related to Epstein, but blacking out faces to make it seem as though they were taken on Little St. James or like from Epstein's estate or whatever. Midas Touch found out that this photo, which was slipped by the DOJ into the Epstein files, was from a, what was it? Fundraiser photo. And it's with their children. It's just a normal look, Bill Clinton was a friend of Epstein, but this is just like a normal, regular photo. So they slipped this one into the Epstein files and blacked out the faces to give the impression, see? Like Lenin and Stalin? Well, like the opposite, actually. It's not the only time they've done that. I'm pretty sure they did that with a photo of Bill Clinton in the pool. There are probably hundreds like that. Didn't Epstein have a lot of public and PR photos in his collection though? Yeah, but then why black out the faces? Look, you have to, it's the DOJ. You have to assume anything they do is done with malice, okay? They're already on the hook, like doing a cover-up for this. They're already trying to get rid of Trump's mentions of the files. You know, like we know for a fact what their bias is here. You should never, ever, 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 ever assume that anything is done on accident.
The Justice Department's document dump this afternoon does not comply with Thomas Massie and my Epstein Transparency Act. They released one document from a New York grand jury of 119 pages, totally blacked out. This despite a federal judge ordering them to release that document. And our law requires them to explain redactions. There's not a single explanation for why that entire document was redacted. We have not seen the draft indictment that implicates other rich and powerful men who were on Epstein's island, who either watched the abuse of young girls or participated in the abuse of young girls and the sex trafficking. The reality is Pam Bondi has obfuscated for months. She first said there were no more documents to be seen. Now she's admitting and releasing hundreds.
I don't believe we should just pin this on Pam Bondi. Obviously, this is like an entire government effort, you know?
Hundreds of thousands of documents, but it is an incomplete release with too many redactions. Thomas Massie and I are exploring all options. It can be the impeachment of people at justice, inherent contempt, or referring for prosecution those who are obstructing justice. We will work with the survivors to demand the full release of these files, to demand justice for the Epstein class and accountability.
Epstein class. It's pretty up that Ro Khanna is seemingly the only Democrat interested in really weaponizing this this political scandal. He's always been the guy leading it. Thomas Massie does from the Republican Party, but he's not. He's always been like antagonistic towards Trump, and of course that's the Republican Party. You wouldn't expect them to be on board with this, but like the Dems broadly do not. This should be the only thing they talk about. Why bother talking about anything else? Honestly, Ro Khanna's the only guy. He's understood the assignment. In all likelihood, this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Ro Khanna. He's nearly him and Thomas Massie are the two people responsible for all of this. Bondi's completely incompetent. Yeah, of course. But she's also like just following orders, right? Not to say that exonerates her. I'm saying we should also go after the people issuing her orders, ideally, in my humble opinion. They missed a page? Is the page they missed that you're referring to the one where Trump met with Epstein and Epstein said to Trump, like, hey, this is a good one, isn't it? Pointing at a 14-year-old girl or something like that. Oh, no, sorry. This was the Trump puffy nipples section. You'd think they would remember to get rid of all of this. I mean, we know they've tried to. They only had 30 days. You're right. I'm putting too much pressure on them. It's unreasonable of me to expect they do a better cover-up than what they've actually managed. Got the classic 119-page blackout right here. The CEO of Victoria's Secret emailed Epstein a couple days after he pled guilty. I think this has been known. I'm pretty sure that's been known. Is the CEO of Victoria's Secret known to be like a creep? During one of Doe's encounters with Epstein, he took her to Mar-a-Lago where he introduced her to its owner, Donald J. Trump. Introducing 14-year-old Doe to Donald J. Trump, Epstein elbowed Trump playfully, asking him, referring to the 14-year-old Doe, "This is a good one, right?" Trump smiled and nodded in agreement. They both chuckled and Doe felt uncomfortable, but at the time was too young to understand why. Yeah, they forgot to get that one too. Imagine what they've got in all the redacted pages, man. I voted for this. Tesla 33, my understanding is that by and large, the victims of Epstein are super, super, super happy with the renewed attention that's been drawn towards the case. I don't think they feel like they're being used for political gain at all, you know? I mean, there are literally thousands of victims tied up in this, so I can't speak for all of them. But I believe for the most part they want the files to be released. Well, it's a bad day for Trump, so you can feel good about that, I suppose. You know he's mad as f over there in the Oval Office. Why aren't people talking about the record low prices that I've delivered to the American people? What the f? Why is everyone so concerned about this? Quiet Piggy, exactly. Yeah. I want to see a crash out. Well, listen, okay? There's a reason why they have been shielding Republicans from journalists today and yesterday. They started the congressional winter break early. Mike Johnson did, so that Congress people wouldn't be, running around the Capitol building talking with journalists. And presumably they are going to do everything they can to shield Trump from journalists for a while. Like every time questions on this are brought up, they're going to try to pull it away from it. I guarantee you. Trump gets really sensitive about this, He's a very sensitive guy. Why can't the victims talk about what happened on the island? Well, they do. But of the victims that we know and who have come forward to the public and have made public personas of themselves, that's only a tiny fraction of the people who were present on the island. Like, again, we're talking like thousands of people have been roped up in this. And I think a couple dozen maybe have, like, who wants to be publicly known for that, right? I imagine a lot of people who were victimized or trafficked by Epstein, now that they're out in the, they're Epstein's dead, they're living a normal life. The last thing they want is to probably open themselves up to nonstop harassment from Trump supporters by bringing attention to this. Yeah. They take representatives, essentially. The people speaking up. A few died by suicide after, I think. One famous one quite recently, yes. Yeah, Virginia. It's been nice to see, though. For the most part, the response to this online has been pretty one-sided.
Epstein files released. Now, I had a little hesitancy on that word because it's only part. The DOJ releasing a mass dump of heavily redacted documents tonight. And I want to just emphasize that point. By heavily redacted, I mean a lot of pages.
This right here? Yeah, I know the fact that Epstein is a pedophile probably isn't like big news to some people, but I have seen some discourse about this. So here's a photo of Epstein shirtless, and there's definitely a toddler, like right here out of frame. I feel like the Jeffrey Epstein that has been built up over the years across our internet zeitgeist with jokes and memes has kind of numbed people to the fact that this was a real man who was actively trafficking and raping children of all ages for decades. I mean, it goes without saying, but it's also like, yeah, I think that past a point, it just kind of turns into like Diddy memes. And we're all delighted. You see people, AI, Photoshop, whatever, Epstein's face onto everything. I get it. I think a lot of people do forget, though, like what this all means, like what this all like means conceptually.
Is that look like this and this and this and this and this, and that's all I was going to do to the printer to make the point. Okay, there's a lot more of them. We have teams across CNN going through what was released right now in terms of pages that are not quite as black as these. But the DOJ is admitting in a letter to Congress that the files are not complete, separate from the redactions themselves. And that lack of completion is a big problem because
it's illegal. It's not just a problem, it's illegal. The law compelled the DOJ to provide all of the Epstein files by yesterday.
The deadline by law, thanks to Congress forcing Trump's hand on the Epstein files, is today. Now, the key Republican who is behind getting that law passed is Congressman Thomas Massie, and he's posting on social media tonight, quote, unfortunately, today's document released by AG Pam Bondi and Deputy AG Todd Blanche grossly fails to comply with both the spirit and the letter of the law that Donald Trump signed just 30 days ago. And Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene said, quote, release all the files. It's literally the law. Well, they did not, and they have not yet. The White House saying tonight that it did not receive the Epstein documents that were released by the Department of Justice before the release. So they're saying that they weren't involved with what the DOJ chose to put out today. But the Justice Department did brief the White House on what the documents contain. So what do we actually have tonight on the pages that aren't black as the country starts to shut down and check out for the end of year holiday time? We do have some apparently never before released documents, along with thousands of files that were already public, the redactions, of course, and a whole bunch of pictures of Bill Clinton. Now, among the never before released documents is this photo of Bill Clinton. He's with Epstein. Got a print out of that one as well. And then a photo of a shirtless Clinton in a jacuzzi next to another person whose face is redacted. And a photo of Clinton swimming in a pool with Ghislaine Maxwell and another woman whose face is redacted. Now, it's important to note Clinton has not been accused by law enforcement of any wrongdoing related to Epstein. Right. And a Clinton
Lamau, they really hate Billy Boy. Well, this is what they're trying to do now, right? Like all of the MAGA influencers who aren't shutting the fuck up in light of these file releases, are trying to... I've seen this 1,000 times. The Democrats really regret this one, huh? The Epstein file release really backfired on them, huh? As if anybody gives a shit about Bill Clinton. Like, there is a single Democrat alive who would not happily string Bill Clinton up if it meant getting Trump along with him. It's ridiculous, you know? But that's what they're trying to settle on. Obviously, the reason why Bill Clinton is being seen more often in these files than Trump is because they redacted the files that had Trump in it and not the ones that had Clinton in it. Pretty straightforward. I'll tell you this. Of the 16 files that the Justice Department mysteriously removed yesterday after posting them, not one of them contained Bill Clinton, you know? Only Trump.
Spokesperson's posting on social media tonight. The White House hasn't been hiding these files for months, only to dump them late on a Friday to protect Bill Clinton. This is about shielding themselves from what comes next or from what they'll try and hide forever. Now, as for Trump himself, he didn't want to talk about the files today. He refused to take questions about anything today when he appeared in public to announce a drug pricing order.
I won't even take questions today because there's no way I can take questions that are anywhere comparable to what you just witnessed.
Why wouldn't you just say, I can't take questions because I'm busy, I've got to run, I'm sorry? Why would you? Are you kidding me?
To be clear, what he's talking about and what we just witnessed was an announcement from Trump about drug prices. MJ Lee has been going through the files such that we have them. And MJ, look, you know, we got these photos, we got lots of redactions, lots of things missing, but there are still, you know, many, many pages of documents that you are able to look through. What are you learning from them?
Yeah, Aaron, as we are going through these thousands and thousands of pages of documents and photos to try to figure out what's new, what's significant, are there people of interest that we should be taking note of? You're right that this is just a partial release of the so-called Epstein files from the...
They really printed a whole black page. They printed 117 black pages, all in succession.
DOJ. And what's interesting is that Todd Blanche has essentially informed Congress as of this afternoon that this is happening in this way because of the sheer volume of the documents that we are talking about. And what he essentially communicated is that we needed more time to figure out what information needed to be redacted, including on some information that the agency got recently. Now, one thing that is interesting is that he made clear in this communication to Congress that they made a decision to withhold and redact information that goes beyond what is stated in the law. And just as a reminder, what is stated in the law is that there are 5 categories of information that...
I like that they can just do that. They can just be like, we've decided on new criteria not outlined by Congress that'll dictate how we decide to redact information in these files. Thank you. The fact that they're taking so long with the remaining files is also a pretty clear indication that a Trump appears a lot in them. There's no, like, that's clearly the only thing they care about here, right?
That can be redacted. That includes identifying information about the victims. And just scrolling through these documents, you can tell, you know, there are photos where there is a black box over a woman's face. That clearly falls under that category. But there are other examples as well, like child abuse, anything that shows physical abuse, anything that could hurt an ongoing investigation, something that could hurt national security. But the fact that there are going to be more documents coming out on a rolling basis and that so many redactions, again, beyond what the law originally stated, is going to have huge...
No, not beyond what the law originally stated, because for one, that implies the law has been changed. It hasn't. The law is the law. It's not what it originally was, it's what it still is. And also, the law doesn't state it like it's a guideline or a bare minimum. It tells you what you can do. I can't like, again, even because people are like, oh, CNN, you know, they're just like institutionalist liberals. This shit isn't liberal. Like, even in very explicit cases of the law being violated, they still act as though the law is a suggestion, you know? I know that we're anti-Chomsky pilled because he's Epstein's best buddy, but it is manufacturing consent in such a... Man, it's not insidious. It's like pathetic, really, you know? Like, how the fuck is our nation supposed to survive under any president if this is how we treat law when it binds like a cantankerous authoritarian? Like, you won't even allow legalism to do the work? I thought it was bad when Trump was just like working along the margins of the law. Now he just openly disobeys it, and the mainstream media is like, well, yeah, he did say he wanted to do that. So people disagree, but like, yeah, he did that. Yeah.
Political ramifications. And I also think we should talk about the ramifications that is going to have on the survivors, because one of the things that the survivors are very much looking for in a big picture way as they go through these files is a sense of a better understanding of why some of these internal decisions over the course of many years were made, including, what charges did the department decide to not bring on certain people? What were the decision-making processes that took place over the course of many years that they've never gotten the answer to? So this is going to be sort of a long-running process, and I can tell you with certainty that survivors are not going to be happy about what they are going to see as still the continued lack of transparency here.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, MJ Lee. And everyone's here with me now.
Yay.
So, Bear Levine, obviously, you've been covering this for years, and you've pushed every night here for the files to be released. So the day comes, the deadline comes, and we get some stuff. We get some new stuff. We get a lot of stuff we already knew. Yeah. We get a lot of black pages. And when it comes to men, we get a lot of pictures of Bill Clinton.
Yeah, Aaron, apparently there's about 10% of the actual FBI files that were released today. And 5% of that, 5% of the 10, we already had. Okay, so we're receiving, for the most part, very little. And, it's already been playing politics in the sense of putting out pictures of Bill Clinton. You have to wonder if the DOJ has assigned Jay Clayton at the SDNY to investigate Clinton and other Democratic enemies of President Trump. Why are they showing all of these photos of Bill Clinton? You would think that would be part of...
You're never going to move the needle by talking this way, because it comes across like you're just looking to play defense for Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, I do not give a shit. The president is a pedophile, and this whole thing is just a sloppy attempt at a politics game from him. You need to, no one wants to say it, but we live in the United States of America. This is not the United Kingdom. You can just say the president is a pedophile. He can't sue you. He can't sue you. And if he did, you would have lawyers lining up to help you pro bono, okay? You can just say that.
Investigation. So that doesn't make any sense. We did learn that there's 1,200 victims, more than we initially thought, from the DOJ. The DOJ also said, and this is most important to me, and I think the survivors, DOJ communications on investigations into Epstein and his associates and details of any immunity deals. And so I'm looking for the FD 302 forms, which are the FBI witness reports that Representative Tom Massey says pertains to 20 men that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked these children to. And from the initial look that I made earlier, I don't see any of the 302 forms. However, we may see
a shocking lack of imperative or urgency in the face of the undeniable reality that the president is engaged in an active, transparently, inarguably illegal cover-up of his decades-long association with the pedophile ring.
I'm in a later document dump.
I mean, Stacey, just to state
this isn't some nebulous edge case issue. There's no charity to be had here. It's factually illegal what is happening right now. How can you say otherwise in the face of files being deleted? That, if nothing else, should cement it. They just straight up removed. They forgot to censor a file that showed Trump. They just straight up removed it. Just oh, sorry, whoops, yoink. No one will notice this missing file in a numbered sequence.
Obvious here. It's just definitionally impossible that it's random what we got.
The tone is so weird. The tone is weird because they all know the truth. The truth is that Trump is a pedophile. They're all aware. Everyone here knows it. But they all also know that they will be canned by CNN if they say it, because CNN is owned by a right-wing oligarch, by a lunatic who has deliberately steered the company in a rightward direction, who has capitulated and kowtowed to Trump. So they're all just wondering, how exactly do we how do we frame this? They're otherwise not allowed to. They feel they're helpless.
Right? If you're putting out 10%, someone's making a decision on what that 10% is.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems like Todd Blanche is the propped up announcer of it. But to Barry's point, it's so significant that President Trump directed Pam Bondi to investigate Bill Clinton, directly named him in a social media post along with other Democrats. And then she answered.
Trump will sue them, then he'd lose. It's just as simple as that. He would lose. Also, it would be like phenomenal PR. You kidding me? You getting to go to court to demonstrate that you are acting in reasonably good faith, that you're not violating the actual malice standard, calling Trump a pedophile. Oh God, are you kidding me? That could be your career. I would love to be sued by Trump for calling him a pedophile. Why? Because I would get to play that up for years. Legal defense would run up to me for free. They would be like, holy shit, yes, please, let me put this in my resume. I would get to go back to Stream afterwards and be like, I can't share details about the case, but yep, I called him a pedophile again today. Give me money. And you people would give me way more than I could ever lose in the legal. Trust me, people are not afraid to call Trump a pedophile because they're afraid of the personal consequences. Honestly, you know what I think? They're basically just afraid of not getting invited to the next Little St. James. They're all in a big club and you're not in it. The media people know the political people. They all have each other's cell numbers and they all know right now Trump calls the shots and they don't want to be that one person rocking the boat because then people stop associating with them. It's all a kind of collaborationism. You know, the impotence of these liberal institutions is born in large part from the fact that there is a perceived shared economic and social reality between the people who are meant to hold the powerful accountable and the powerful themselves.
The call and appointed a U.S. attorney in the Southern.
I mean, Jesus, look at Epstein palling around with Chomsky. Look at Chomsky palling around with Bannon, right? Oh, you can, critique power all you want. You can hold people to account. I think Walter Cronkite was in those photos. You can be as much of an upstanding journalist as you want. At the end of the day, you see yourself as on that level, you know?
Of New York to investigate.
And others, yeah.
And the policy of the Justice Department is you don't release anything related to an ongoing investigation, especially photographs about the subject of an ongoing investigation. And obviously, it seems to be a disingenuous subject, being Bill Clinton being ordered to be investigated at this late stage of the game. It certainly did seem targeted at the time and still does. But why would they go against their own policies and then release Bill Clinton's photos? It's kind of makes a farce of this entire situation.
I mean, it really, right, if your whole point, if you were going to hide behind an ongoing investigation, the one that you've got going is into Bill Clinton. And yet we got a whole bunch of pictures of him in a pool and a jacuzzi and whatnot.
Yeah, and I'll just add.
It's almost like they weren't actually investigating Bill Clinton or anything involving the Epstein files, and they only said that in a desperate effort to get people to back off. Remember that? They were pushing for the release of the Epstein files, and Trump was like, okay, you want me to look into the Democrat Epstein files? Well, sure, let's take a look into the Democrat Epstein files. Of course, nothing happened after that.
One more building block, which is that the legislation, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, actually has an exception. It says you do not have to release information if it could jeopardize an ongoing investigation. So it's not just that that's Justice Department policy. The law allows for them to actually have that.
Specific law, right, that Massey.
Yes,
law. Yes,
exactly. So it's the oddity that would be the piece that's released, and especially when
there's no investigation.
Named at least 20 men, and then we've only got one out of 20.
Right. And it happens to be that one. Okay, Max. So, I mean, we all get that. And obviously, everybody, if there's anything more to know about Bill Clinton, then people should know it, right? Sure. But they should know about everyone else as well. The two men behind the bill, the law that Ryan's talking about, Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, have both said this is a load of baloney. And Massie saying, basically get out of town, right? His words are that grossly fails to comply with the spirit and the letter of the law. Then you had Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, has been a regular voice on this issue, but now other issues going against Trump. Does this become like everybody jumps on board to this or no?
There are now three things that are...
Everyone already did jump on board. When the Epstein files were brought to a House vote, they received almost unanimous yeses to move it forward to the Senate. Senate passed it by unanimous consent. Everyone jumped on board.
Universally approved of in politics, motherhood, apple pie, and releasing all of the Epstein files, which is what makes this so incredibly jarring, alarming, and politically stupid that the Trump administration is acting this way. They are either grossly incompetent, and that tells, look at how they're dealing with issues of affordability, or they're on the wrong side of the Epstein conspiracy, the Epstein case. Call it whatever you want. They're on the wrong side of it. I cannot for the life of me understand why they are operating this way unless they're trying to hide something.
Well, that, but also they're really incompetent. It does piss me off that because everyone here is a coward who's unwilling to say the fact that Trump's a pedophile, that they always have to be. It's like what you guys do, where you guys pretend to be shocked when a Nazi goes mask off. Like we watch a video by a groiper running for office, and they dog whistle, and you guys are like, "Was that a dog? Did this guy just dog whistle?" Meanwhile, the media has to be like, "I don't know what he could possibly be doing other than covering up the Epstein files," as if he hasn't been doing that every day for like a year now, like nonstop, very, very publicly, right? You always have to be like bamboozled. It's always like they get off on being one-upped by the people who are they're playing chess with a pigeon, and they're acting shocked and indignant every time the pigeon knocks a chess piece over. You know what I mean? I didn't expect you to do that. It's as if you don't even know the rules of the game. And so much of Twitter does the same shit. I think feigning outrage for a lot of people, it's like very millennial coded. Or maybe it's not millennial coded. Maybe it's everyone above Gen Z coded. They just really like pretending to feign outrage. They love that shit.